Hi, my name is Harry Tie, and welcome to Odejuma. Odejuma is an Ishekiri farewell that loosely translates to till tomorrow. But for me, I look at it as a promise that there is so much more in life to look forward to. And this interview driven storytelling podcast is rooted in that promise. So as you take the time to listen, I want you to feel that as we go deeper with folks from across the Black diaspora, exploring the adventures, resilience, joy, and the ordinary moments that change their lives, that you would have a good, hearty laugh or you find something to sit with. Because there's power in the stories of everyday people, and these stories are worth telling. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Odejuma. I'm super excited to have you here. If you're new here, please follow us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, wherever you're listening to this podcast, make sure that you follow. If you're watching on YouTube, use the subscribe button so that you stay in the know when I have new episodes released. I'm super excited about today's show. I love the theater, and I have a theater icon with me today. I have Jason Veasey. Hi, Jason. How you doing?
Hi, Harry. I'm doing good. Thanks
How's
for
it
having me.
going? How's the weather like over in New York?
You know, I don't like the cold.
Mm-hmm.
So other people are not happy about it. We are in the 80s.
Okay.
The high 80s. And that's where I get into my power play. So I'm grateful. But like apparently on Monday we'll be back in the 50s. So I don't know. But like
You're feeling good. You're feeling good about it. That's good.
I'm feeling good.
That's good.
Uh-huh.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Well, thank you for coming on Odejuma. I'm super excited to have this conversation. Like I said, I really love the theater. I think that theater is an art form that deserves all the love that it gets, or that it deserves. I don't think it gets as much love as it deserves.
I agree.
I'm excited to dive right in. But for folks who are just hearing about you or just, learning about Jason, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of your background and how you found your way to the theater?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a military brat. My parents were in the Air Force, my mother and father. Mother is Jamaican. We moved around a lot, and I think that added to my imagination and social skills and things like that. And when we moved from Germany to Alabama when I was 10 years old is when my parents were like, hey, you keep saying you want to be an actor, throwing it out there. Well, here's some auditions. And that's where I kind of started at the Alabama Shakespeare Festival. Especially at that time was one of those theatrical regional theaters that were like, you've got like the Guthrie, and then you have the Goodman, you have Alabama Shakespeare Festival, you have Oregon Shakespeare, big, huge theatrical operations.
Yeah.
And that's when I started theater at like 10, 11. Then I went to a junior high school that was a performing arts junior high magnet and majored in theater and choir there and just continued through high school, went to college and majored in it and moved to New York in 2003. So I've been a theater kid for a very, 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 very long time.
Because you were 10, clearly.
Yeah, and even before 10 was talking about it, like just saying, I want to be an actor. Like had no idea what that meant, no idea, that I want to be an actor. That's it. So it's always been a thing in my life at this point.
That is very fascinating. And when people say, oh, I'm a theater kid, it's like, oh, I'm a theater kid from high school. I started in my high school production of, or something. You started on a major platform. How was it like as a child, working in that major theatrical outfit?
I think I've been thinking about this a lot, Harry, actually, like in terms of like my high school and college years. The reality is you're right. Most people don't start theater until high school, whether that's because of nerve or access or introduction, and for me, I think starting theater in a professional setting I didn't realize how much of an advantage that was. Because also too, it wasn't like I was the only kid that worked at that theater. I was also used to other kids who had been doing theater at that age. Then I went to a junior high school that was all about the arts. So I was constantly around kids that were interested in the arts. And more importantly, I was also around, because we were in Alabama, I was also around a lot of kids that looked like me, that were in the arts. So being Black in the arts wasn't some sort of fantasy. It was a real reality. And so I didn't realize until I got to, I think I want to say college. I was just like, certain things that I already knew, I didn't understand, like how other kids didn't know. I was like, oh, people start this much later.
Yeah.
People start this much later and because they started a little bit later, they were also on journeys with their families, not understanding, I guess, and I think maybe either I hit the jackpot with my parents, or my parents, because I started younger, had more time to get used to the fact that this was happening. Whereas if you start, I can imagine someone's family being like, well, wait, what do you mean you want to be an actor? You want to go to college now for theater when you've just been doing it for 2 years? Maybe I didn't understand people's parents not being supportive.
Yeah.
But I do think one of the things that I benefited from, especially when I got to college, where the competition really starts. I kind of already had experienced that in junior high and things like that. So by the time that I got to college, it was already solidified that it was all mine. And the only person that I was competing with was myself. And I had already learned, you don't get cast all the time, and all those great lessons that are helpful in those situations. And I think my ownership and knowledge of the possibility of my place in theater was well set in stone, particularly because I had seen so many examples of people that looked like me on stage, had teachers that looked like me, had friends that looked like me. So when I got to a program and experienced any sort of resistance or limiting, it was very easy for me to be like, no, that's not true. That don't make no sense. Whatever. Moving on. Like I was able to have an armor on that was based in reality. When someone said, "Oh, you can't really play that part because it's usually for Black people," I was like, "That's not true. I saw Derek Lee Weeden do that in on stage at Alabama Shakespeare Festival in 1993. So what's going on?"
Okay. Yes, coming with the receipt.
When they would talk about like the classics, or if I hadn't read a Chekhov, it was very easy for me to be like, "Well, tell me about Joe Turner's Come and Gone." Or Flamis, because those are classics as well. So I don't understand why we're only talking about, I have to know all these things, but y'all don't got to know anything about this.
Yeah.
What
is usually the response when you hit them with maybe like an August Wilson or something? How do they respond to that when they don't know that?
There is no response. And I know there's a response. I mean, I think it's funny because I think I didn't realize this at the time. But talking to some professors that I had, that I actually have a fantastic relationship with to this day, one of them thought I was bored. And I wasn't bored. I was just being very patient and waiting to get to the next level. I didn't realize that I had already learned so many things. So I was just kind of chilling until we got to the next situation. I did have one professor who thought I was difficult. This is not someone I have a relationship with, but so I thought I was difficult, but I didn't care that they thought I was difficult. You couldn't teach me anything about Black theater. I didn't come in here expecting white people to know anything about the contributions of what people look like me to. My parents made very sure that we already have that in coming in. So I might have come off as a little bit too confident to that person, but I didn't care. I was, I knew enough about how to exist in theater and loved theater so much that it didn't really matter what program I went to. There was nothing that was going to deter me from doing that,
That's real. Yeah. And before we go any further, you mentioned the Guthrie earlier on. I'm based in the Twin Cities. Have you performed at the Guthrie before?
No.
Okay, cool.
Is that something seen? Yes, of course. Yeah. Many show there, have friends that have performed there, auditioned a lot for the Guthrie, but there are it's one of the 5 theaters regional theaters that I've yet to perform at it will happen one day.
Yeah, yeah.
I love regional theater.
You've done The Good Man. I think I like regional theater too. I like, and I know we're gonna go to Colorado because I hear you talk about Colorado came up a little bit. My question was gonna be, how did Colorado come into your, to your journey or your history, basically?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do enjoy regional theater, from like The Good Man to the one in Portland. I saw, I think it was Clyde's I saw over there.
Oh, at OSF or at Portland Center Stage?
Portland Center Stage.
Yes.
Yes. Which is a nice theater as well. And then obviously there's the one in LA. And so I do like, I feel like theater is, I tell people, like, I really, as someone who is Nigerian born and raised, theater was very integral in how, we were raised. It's a very intricate part of African storytelling.
Yeah.
It might not be the same way that it's done over here, but my love for theater, and whatever city I'm in, I want to go see theater. And I feel like regional theater, it's really underestimated, in a way. And I'm like, y'all should really be hip to the bunch of really great theaters around.
It's weird. It's like, I definitely find with a lot of the younger artists, either they're not being exposed to it or taught about it, but there seems to be this attitude about regional theater where when I was coming up, when I was artistically raised in regional theater, but like, that's where you learn so much. That's where you get to be a lead. That's where you learn how to advocate for yourself. That's where you build your resume. I mean, the thing about regional theaters, for the most part, also too, they're funded, and the community that's where they treat you like gold, because the community is so thankful for you to be there. These incredible, huge institutions with legacies and spirits and stories in the walls. I don't know. I love regional theater, and I get sad for people who either felt that there's no value in that, or why should they? And I, just like, you're great if you can just go straight to Broadway and be only on Broadway. Fantastic. But I don't know anyone who works consistently on Broadway on a regular basis from my level or up, or age group or up, that hasn't worked across the country in institutions like the Guthrie or someplace smaller in like Arkansas, but like, that's where you play these roles. That's where you get your first shot in a safer space. That's not the commercial bottom line money thing. That nonprofit regional theater is where it's at. That's where you can focus on the work. Also too, that's where, especially as someone who's not white, that's where you're going to get a lot of your opportunity. That's where the majority, even currently right now in this country, the majority of female non-white leadership are at these regional theater institutions. Regional theaters are the ones that are trying to do better things and approach theater better.
Yeah, that's real. Okay, cool. Thank you for talking about regional theater, because it comes up a lot in conversation with folks who enjoy the theater. Everybody wants to go to, I want to see a show on Broadway. I'm like, yes, you want to see a show on Broadway.
Of course you do, but like,
there's a theater down the street. There's a theater 10 minutes away you could go to and watch a great show.
You got Mixed, but you got I mean, it's crazy. Like, people will be in a city and they know,
yes,
like, there's the Guthrie. They know what the Guthrie is, but I'm kind of like, I wonder what it's like to like be from there and like not really know that the Guthrie is like that girl.
Yeah,
like that, like.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the Lion King's out of town tryout was at the Guthrie before it went to Broadway.
Really? Mm-hmm. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to the Guthrie. Guthrie. But Colorado, like I said, is a huge part of your story. Talk about that, and how did you go from Colorado to Broadway?
Well, like I said, I was an Air Force brat, and so we lived everywhere. I was born in California, then we moved to Texas, then we moved to Germany, then we moved to Alabama, and then right before my sophomore year of high school, we moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado. which was it was the first time I remember the moving thing was hard for me. Beforehand, it was never that hard, but this was the first time where I just didn't want to move. Maybe it's because I was a teenager at that time. And it was the biggest cultural shock, particularly for me and my middle brother. It was a different type of white, if I can be blunt. It was a different type of white. I'd never been around that many white people who didn't really know how to be around Black people. The way that money looked there was very different. Middle class looked so much richer. It was our first time not living on a base. It was my first time going to school truly with people who had been going to school together since kindergarten. Because, when you're on a base, you're around other military kids. It was my first year being back in a school that wasn't art centered. Because remember, I was in junior high around all artist kids. And now I'm in a school where it just wasn't the focus. And I've been used to doing school shows and working outside of school. So it was a culture shock. It was cold, random. It was cold. It was cold whenever it wanted to be. There weren't a lot of Black people. It was a big culture shock. But looking back, I definitely think that because of that, it kicked my motivation to get out of there. But it kicked my motivation to utilize to be an actor even more. It made me be like, oh, this is definitely what I want to do. If anything, to get to another place where theater felt more centric in my life again, which would have been college. And I ended up going to college there at University of Northern Colorado, which, it wasn't my first choice, but it ended up being the best choice and most perfect place for me. I was very successful there. I really enjoyed the program. It wasn't a major, what I call mafia school. And looking back, we could have used more business education, but we were very focused on craft. And I kind of look at it that was my grad school because I had already had so much theater education beforehand. And it kind of felt that way in general. And it solidified for me a few things. It solidified that this was definitely, I already knew what I was going to do, but solidified that I had a place there and I knew theater. And it solidified I knew how to maneuver through from microaggressions to microcosms of what the business could look like, because I was the only Black boy my entire 4 years there.
Wow. In the
program, in the acting, in the theater program.
Wow.
I had there, and then along with me there were four other Black women. One in my class, and the rest were younger. Now it's different. Now it looks like an HBCU child. Right. But so there was a lot of maneuvering. When I think back on it, there was a lot of maneuvering I did and taking care of myself. But I was able to do that because of the armor that I had, the armor that I had in terms of just being in theater and knowing how to maneuver through the ups and downs of that. But also, I was very connected to my artistic ancestry. There was no such thing as I didn't grow up not feeling seen. In addition to the theater, you have to remember I'm growing up. This is the early 90s when I'm 10 to 5. So we had so many shows on television, from Cosby Show, Martin, Different World, New York Undercover, Rock, In Living Color. I was just bombarded with all these incredible Black talent, and the movies, the Spike Lees, the John Singletons, all those things, and the age of hip hop, and the 90s R&B. It was just, you couldn't tell me that I wasn't going to have some sort of place. But Colorado, I think, kind of clicked in a confidence for me in terms of solidifying how I utilize my gifts for when I moved to New York. I don't love Colorado Springs, no shade. Still there, but I have a fondness for Colorado and my time in Colorado.
Okay.
For sure. I think that also my first 2 years in Colorado were looking back, probably like the loneliest I ever felt. And I'm saying that knowing that that does not compare to some other people's loneliness, but loneliness in the sense that like I didn't know where I was going to find my passion in this new environment. I'm 15, you know, where there's lots of things swirling off. This is also the time where like it's really coming, it's really getting real. Where I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm gay. You know, it's around that time too, where you're just like, you know, it was just all lots of new stuff where I never felt that lonely before, or I don't like to say lonely, separated. Lonely, I think does a disservice to the situation, but separated for sure. You know, up until that point, I think I felt very secure in my surroundings, and especially with my family and friends, and you know, I had friends at school, I had theater friends, all those things like that, and then it kind of just like went away. And it was just, again, it was cold in September, and I'm like, what's happening, child? Like, I don't know what's going on. You know, there's like tons of white people. Like, because you're in the South, white people around black people all the time.
Yes.
And I got to Colorado, I was just like,
yeah,
you know, and like people didn't know things. I was just like, oh, some of the black people didn't know things. I was just like, what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Oh Lord, okay, you know. So, but you know, Colorado's been good to me. And then I graduated in 2002, and then spent the next 8 months. I didn't move to New York right away. I moved to Denver and just kind of started like working in Denver. I don't know, maybe to build up confidence, save money, I guess. And then it went better than I planned. So I was like, let me just go ahead and go to New York now. And I've been here since 2003.
That is interesting. And how was it? The lessons you learned in Colorado Springs, Denver, how did that translate to making you live in this? Because it would be very jarring to go from Colorado Springs to New York City. So what were the lessons that, you know, helped you navigate that maybe still applies to your how you navigate till today?
Well, I think when I really think about it, one, it wasn't like I was unfamiliar with New York, because my mother moved from Jamaica to New York around like 17, 18. So I have a lot of family here. It wasn't like we grew up coming here all the time, but you know, and every other place we lived, there was always some sort of big city around. So what I've realized is it's not about what the transition was going from places like Colorado Springs to New York. It was like, what was it like being a city mouse, always having to be in these smaller towns? That was the challenge for me. There was never any transition for me going to New York. It was like, boom, like that's just, it's just, you know, I'm not even really a city mouse. I'm like a metropolitan mouse, because there are some cities, but I can't live, you know, I couldn't live in Minneapolis full time. I love Minneapolis. I need like a city. So for me,
the hustle and bustle of the city. I'm hearing. Yeah.
It didn't feel like a transition. It felt like putting on pants that fit. You know, whereas every other place that I lived, or places where a lot of us grow up, always felt like I can make the outfit work, but there was always just something a little off for me. Or I'm kind of like, this is fine. You know, like being a military brat, I know how to find or make any environment work, because you have to. But, you know, I can walk in and be like, for a period of time. Colorado Springs, I knew within the first month, I was just like,
you're like, once I'm done, I'm heading out, you know.
Correct. And even Denver, which I think is it's a great city, you know, there'd be a time limit for me, right? But like, you know, I knew that New York was going to be it. So, you know, the moment flying in and landed, you know, I was kind of like, okay. And I don't ever remember any sort of jarring. No, I mean, besides like basic like adulting life stuff that would happen in any city, for me, I was just like, new playground, let's go. Okay. And I'm still like that. I'm still like that. I do think regardless, because I grew up going to new places all the time. I think that's how I feel. It doesn't feel like transitions for me anytime that I move, because I just already have the skill set of being like, okay, let's figure out this, let's figure out that, let's figure out.
Yeah. And you've been in this playground in New York since they're from then till now. You've done a bunch of theatrical productions, but I want to talk about A Strange Loop.
Okay.
Because I heard that 10 years on this particular project.
Yeah.
I was just like, that's a long time, and that's like from like is that just in development, or from development to stage to talk about how you came in contact with The Strange Loop, what that process like, what that 10 years of your life was on this one production.
First, I'll say that's not. It's a blessing, but it's also something that doesn't really happen that often, where pretty much the same group of people stays with it. Usually either people become unavailable because their careers move on, or the project keeps going and then producers come in and they want, and the people get replaced by celebrities or more established people. Basically what happened is that I got an email in 2012, April 26th, 2012. And that's important because 10 years later, April 26th, 2022 was our opening night on Broadway.
Wow.
10 years to the day. Then I got my first email from this guy named Michael R. Jackson saying, hey, a couple of mutual friends of ours that I just got done working with recommended you. Would you, I would love for you to come in and audition for me for this reading workshop, very low stakes reading workshop of the show I've been working on called Strange Loop, which he had been working on for years even before that. And he sent me a bunch of YouTube clips, with some songs from the show, but a lot of his other like trunk songs or individual songs and things. He said, could you please watch them? And I was like, okay, cool. And I watched them, and I thought they were irreverent and shocking and fun and cool, and I never seen anything like it. And he kept emailing me, being like, have you watched the clips? And I was like, yeah, watch the clips. So I go meet him in a rehearsal room on the campus of NYU, and we end up talking for like 45 minutes. I'm just talking. And I asked him, I was just like, so am I going to sing for you or what? He's like, no, there's no singing. I just wanted to catch a vibe, because he'd experienced people day of concert or last minute dropping out because either they were scared to do the material, maybe they were someplace in their sexuality or whatever, or they were scared for their career. But he just wanted to make sure that I wasn't gonna dip or leave. And I was just like, yeah, I don't care about that. And so I think like a week later, I did my first reading of A Strange Loop, and there at that point in time there was a couple of us that were there. I think like John Andrew Morrison wasn't there. He wasn't available. Like James Jackson. That's when L. Morgan Lee came on. And then basically I would say from year one of that, 2012, until let's say 2010 or 18, every time they did another workshop, he would say yes, I would say yes. And I think we all just kept saying yes to each other, because a lot of us in the group weren't necessarily fitting a mold in the rest of the casting. I was working consistently, but it was a fascinating piece. I really liked it. And, it was just us and Michael and Stephen Brackett, who was our director, either at NYU or rehearsing literally in a porn studio. That was also the house of Musical Theater Factory, which was influential in getting the show.
Mm-hmm.
Every time we did another reading or workshop, it got kind of bigger, and there would be changes, there were more elements. And then we had a dance workshop where we added Raja around. Then we did one workshop in 2018. And then next thing you know, we're going to Playwrights Horizons. And we're finally getting our production. And it was great. It was a hit. And we were like, okay. I mean, we had been doing it behind music stands for so long. We had, I actually, for the first 5 years of workshops, did essentially what is like a version of Thought 6. And then I got bumped up to Thought 5. It's just a very long journey that was fun. And I don't know what we were thinking. I never thought we would get a production collectively because we watched people say no. People wouldn't touch us with a 10-foot pole. And then Playwrights Horizons happened, and it was like we were Hamilton, and then the pandemic happened, and then we won all these awards, and then we went to DC, and then we went to Broadway. That's and it's responsible for so much. I mean, it's the reason why I'm on TV now is because of A Strange Loop. It's just people getting to see and us being showcased and having that kind of visibility. And but again, I mean, the majority of us have been with it for so long. I just cannot believe that we were able to, or Michael was able to, fight for us and keep us. I mean, if you have talked to me 5 years ago, I'd have been like, half of us would have been replaced by some of the regular Broadway standbys before we got to Broadway. I would have never thought that we would have all made it to Broadway. Never.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. And you made it in Burger on the Splash. You had a huge producer behind you. You had all the things.
Yeah.
Some would say you were set up for success, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. In that way, the reality is, Harry, is that any Broadway musical is a 50-50 chance of it. I think we were set up for success because it had been worked on for so long. We had been working together for so long, particularly the Thoughts. I mean, I'm gonna say it. We were really fucking good together. We were really, really good. We were like it was this kind of magic in a bottle situation. Michael R. Jackson makes this statement though. He said, if Donald Trump didn't win that first election, we would have never been produced. If Hillary would have won, we would have never made it to Playwrights Horizons.
That is interesting. The people love the show, but I saw it in San Francisco. I didn't see the Broadway production.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think that there is, how do you, and maybe this is a Michael question, but I have you here. I'm just gonna ask you. But like for folks who live in the intersection of Blackness and queerness, some of us who even live when it comes to like the body weight issues, the fatness as well. Adding that layer on top of it.
Yeah.
What do you think about some of the critiques of A Strange Loop? Or what were some of the things that you feel like folks didn't really understand about the artistry of the work?
Yeah. Well, I am someone who the critiques never bother me. And if there were critiques, I'd be a little bit worried. All the best pieces that I can think of have discussions made about them, and I don't think there's one thing as a perfect piece. The main critiques or questions, sometimes they're just questions, which I think are all valid. A lot of people have wondered why there was a white director for this Black queer piece, and honestly, if I wasn't part of the production, I probably would have the same question. I'd be like, what's going on with that? The reality is, though, and Michael has said this on paper, Stephen was the only person that said yes to Michael. I mean, when I say the only person at the time, from brand new, up and coming to legendary directors, Black, they all said no. They all said no, and that's just the reality of it. And I would challenge anyone in that position to drop the person that continually said yes. So that's why Stephen Brackett was there. There have been critiques about the way that we handle certain gender issues with the balance of how it's cast versus, the man in the dress trope, which I think are all very valid critiques. I've heard critiques about how women are portrayed in the piece, or again, not critiques, just questions.
Yeah.
I have my own specific, not critiques, but wishes for very conscious and careful casting with this show. I think it's hard because there's no notes on casting in the show. And if you didn't see the production, it's hard to understand why. But I do, like, one thing I'll tell you that is personal to me. I don't be casting no tenors in thought 5 and 6. Don't be casting no tennis in no 5 and 6.
That's very specific.
It's very specific unless you understand that the bass role always gets undermined.
Okay.
People are like, oh, it's bass. We don't need that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Okay. Would you ever direct a version of A Strange Loop?
The majority of us would. Yes, absolutely.
That is pretty cool.
And you know why? I think at this point in time, for me to direct it, it's the only way. Because I can't wait to see another production that's not based off of the person that we did. I'm very excited to see what people's ideas are about it. But I think in order for me to really open myself up to the possibility of what this piece of art can be, the only way I know how to force myself to release myself of that production is to direct it. Because if I direct it, I will force myself to not do anything that we did. Or really dissect and say, I believe that this is a tenet of what makes this production, really, really good. Okay. But yes, the majority of us would love to direct a production.
Okay, that's cool. And you said that because of A Strange Loop, now you are acting on screen now. So there's Only Murders in the Building, there's Best Medicine, and all these other shows. Talk about that journey from stage to screen. What is the difference from
I'm still trying to figure that out, man. Well, first of all, I gotta say again, I'm still trying to figure out whether it's delusion, patience, or confidence. They can all be the same to me. I was such a theater person, and I still am, that like this vision of like when when the people say I really want to do TV and film or transition to TV and film, I just never said things like that. I thought it would have organically happened. I was kind of like, yeah, I'm sure at some point my ass is gonna be up on the screen somewhere, I did American Gangster years ago when I was like 27. I was kind of like, all right, cool, fine. I'm such a theater person. But there's the scene that I had, I'll never forget the first day that I got the new scene, which is the Josh lit, the scene on the subway.
Okay.
You know what scene I'm talking about? In Strange Loop, the scene on the subway where he meets the guy and he finds that it's not real and that he's white, all those things like that.
Yeah.
I got that scene and I was just like, ooh. And I don't know what something said to me. I go, if we ever get a production and I'm in it and I do my job, this will be the reason that springboards me into TV and film. And I was right. We did it at Playwrights Horizons, and almost immediately after Playwrights Horizons, I booked 4 different TV shows, guest stars, and every casting director talked about that scene. And I don't know what it was. I don't know what made me think that, but I just knew that it was going to be the showcase for me. And I think it feels like it's happened very quickly for me, or it can look like it's happened very quickly for me, but like I just got lucky where every time I booked a TV situation, it got just a little bit more, it got bigger in size, or I learned a little bit more. So it just felt like I was going like this, it felt on time and I was ready to go, and it never felt like overwhelming. It felt like I was, I never felt the instinct to be like, well, since I've done these 2 things, now I can go and get it felt like everything was happening though it was supposed to. I never felt impatient about anything. My agents were awesome about it. I was able to still do theater, which is great. I think the difference, I'm still figuring out the difference. One, because I have yet to do any sort of like crazy dramatic stuff. I will say, I love television. I think it's probably because it's closer to theater. I'm not convinced about filmmaking, and people look at me like I'm crazy. I think I need to try a movie with a budget.
What is not convincing you yet? What is the thing that, maybe you've hinted to us, film without a budget? Yeah, but what are some of the things that make you feel like, oh, film is not where I want to dip my toes into just yet fully?
I mean, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that like I'm a time person. The waiting is a problem for me, and with theater, it goes like this.
Yeah.
I like that. I don't like. It's not even like this is actually the most like anal retentive thing about me. With TV, I know eventually we're going to have to get to something because we only have this amount of time. With film, I'm kind of like, is going on, man? What's happening? Yeah. It might feel different when I'm on a film with a bigger budget, when the waiting is more comfortable.
Yes.
We shall see. But for me, you spend, and with TV, you get to spend a long time with the character, like you do in a longer run with the show. I have found that my theater training has made the transition to TV and film for me a lot easier. And, when you're doing a show, it's as simple. I mean, something as easy as like the pressure of consistency and accuracy that you have to have in theater, I think doesn't feel to me as heavy in TV and film. You mess up, no big deal, we'll start over. Of course you want to be on your gig. You're taking things in sections, you're focusing on this moment. Annie Potts, who's in the show, she said to me something that kind of blew my mind. A really good day on set after filming feels like a really awesome in-depth day of rehearsal, where you've broken down the scene, you've run it, you feel very comfortable with the lines, you've had conversations with the director, you've got the blocking, all those things like that. You're running it, and you probably won't touch it again until we do a run of the show and then get into tech. But we know what the scene is, and you walked away from rehearsal being like, great, and we can start digging even more once we get into the run, right? Because in theater, we have more time. But a great day of filming feels like an awesome day of rehearsal, because the reality is that your performance is not your own. I could go home, Harry, and freak out and be like, this take was so bad. This take was so bad. This take was so bad. Or that take was awesome. That was such a good take. And you watch the episode and they don't use the take that you can't stand, or the other, like,
yeah.
So also when you're doing theater, you're responsible for the audience going like that, or like that. You're the camera. It's a director and editor's medium. You can only do so much, and so in an effort to like stay sane, I realized that my only job is to just throw awesome pasta up against the wall, and then they can figure out the sauce. Whereas at theater, you're making that pasta, you're throwing it up in the sauce, you're cooking it in front of everyone, and you're doing the whole meal the entire night, and you've been rehearsing the entire night, and accurate, get on this number, even something as small as like, hitting your mark on TV. And really, it's hard for some people, but as a theater person, especially musical theater, I'm kind of like, where do I need to stand? And I think, again, like, even like, because of like, if you work on new musical theater or new plays, the constant changes also didn't throw me off. Like, it's kind of like, okay, there's new pages. I was used to that, from Strange Loop to workshops. I mean, theater really, I think maybe because of theater, that's why the transition felt as easy as possible. In terms of acting, I don't know if I believe that there's a difference in acting when you're on film versus stage. I think there's a difference in approach. There's different elements to be wary of, or not wary of, to be aware of. But when I really think about it, the only thing that I like, the way that I use my voice is different. Like, I feel very disconnected from my speaking voice on TV and film in a way that I do on theater.
Why do you feel disconnected? What's the reason for that?
Well, because even if you're mic'd in a theater, you still know that you're responsible for making sure that everyone hears you. So like diction and things like that, I'm very well aware of. Whereas in TV and film, I feel like I'm doing nothing. And particularly because my speaking voice has always been something that people have commented on. I'm very aware of that being one of my main tools of how I've expressed myself. And with TV and film, it's just getting used to it being what it is and not having to worry about it, because you're mic'd and there's a boom mic, and I'll be listening to people. I'm like, what? Sometimes I can't hear people. It's just a different ball game. So that's something I'm still kind of maneuvering and figuring out how my voice transfers. What does it sound like in the episode? What do my mannerisms look like? That's what I'm figuring out now, like how I transfer to, I know what transfers on stage. I don't know how I look and transfer on screen.
Yeah, and would you say that the creative process for you and for your artistic practice is different when you're on stage and when you're doing TV and film? Is it different, and what does that look like in both instances?
Yeah. For me, it's always going to be different, a little bit different, even depending on the role, even if it's stage. But for I found for theater, I'm definitely more regimented in my approach to exploration. If I'm being honest, my main approach with TV is to stay as out of my head as possible and as sane as possible, because it can be a very high pressure situation. You know, whenever you're leveling up, you're at the bottom of the next level, right? And so it's very easy. And I've watched so many friends of mine, you know, they get on TV and it's just, we start spiraling all over again because we don't want to mess this opportunity up. And that makes sense. And I know that I can be prone to that too. So for me, my main goal especially this first season, was to just, even if I'm faking it, to really just, and tell myself, I mean, this isn't 8 shows a week. This is easier than A Strange Loop. This is easier than Lion King, for sure. You know, in an effort to stay out of my head so I can actually be free. Because I do think that the more in your head with TV, it's gonna be a wrap. It's gonna be a wrap. There's too much at stake. There's too many elements for you to be getting in your head. You know, there's too many eyes watching to be spiraling for what is maybe a page of dialogue. I just refuse to do it at this grown age. If I'm going to be on a comedy, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to, you know, have a good time. I'm going to learn. I'm going to ask questions. And I know that can be easier said than done, but that has been my main focus, is to just remind myself that this is just the beginning of something and not the end all be all or definitive experience. And also, I didn't put a gun to anyone's head and say hire me. I made 2 self tapes and I got the job. So if they think I got the goods, I'm not going to disagree with it.
Shout out to that.
If it ends up that I suck, that's on y'all. because y'all
you saw the self tapes and you said sure. You said we're gonna go with Jason, and here we are.
That's on y'all. You know, yeah. So, but again, all these are tricks for me to quell any anxiety of that. I mean, that's the thing with Strange Loop. You know, one, that wasn't my Broadway debut, so I'd already been through that before.
Yeah.
But by the time we got to Broadway, we'd already done 2 productions of the show. So there was this privilege of one, knowing the show very well, and also knowing that the theater world at large was so excited for us to be there. It wasn't kind of like how are critics going to feel about it? We already know how the critics feel about it.
Yeah, because they've seen it twice.
They gave us all the awards, you know. And even to this day, I still, like, we get a guest star on the show, they bring up that Strange Loop like nobody's business. It happens all the time, which I think is crazy and insane, that this show about a black gay boy, about a fat black gay boy and the thoughts in his head, has lasted past what we did, you know?
Yeah. Would you say that, so I wouldn't be wrong to say that A Strange Loop changed your life, you know, and the trajectory of your career?
Yes. And I will say that it changed my life. It changed my life from the first time I ever read the script. I knew it was gonna be special. I'm not shocked it's had the impact. The whole journey is kind of crazy, but like, it changed my life from the moment I read it. I knew that, like, if I could help it, it behooved me to be a part of it as long as I possibly could. I knew it was going to change somebody's life, but yes, for sure, it definitely changed my life. Yeah, it definitely changed my life. That's one of those things where, like, I knew I wanted to originate a role on Broadway. I had no idea it was going to be anything like that. No idea. No.
Shout out to that. I feel like everybody dreams about originating a role on Broadway, and you did that. You're, you know, it's history at this point, so you should be very proud about the work that you did, for sure, on them. We're gonna go into some rapid fire questions. I feel like we've learned so much about your journey and your story and how you approach your art, but we're still very curious about some things. So we're gonna ask a couple of rapid fire questions.
All right.
The first one is, what are the 3 songs that are currently on your playlist?
Right now, I can tell you, hold on. If Your Girl Only Knew by Aaliyah, because I've been going back and revisiting my girl.
I love Aaliyah, one of my faves.
I love her. The next song that's heavy on my playlist is South London Lover, Beware South London Lover Boy from the new Ray album.
Okay. I haven't heard that one yet.
Yes. And then Overqualified, Duran Bernard.
Okay. We love Duran. Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. Yes.
Yeah, I love Duran.
Okay. Where is your dream travel destination?
Right now, Tokyo.
Okay. Love that. Dream collaboration, living or dead?
Can I do 2?
Sure, you can.
Living, specifically David Alan Grier. If you don't know who David Alan Grier is, get into that. Dead, I'm gonna say Harry Belafonte.
That's a good one. And you're like kin. He's from Jamaica too, right?
Yeah.
Or the West Indies. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. For some Caribbean country, I don't know. I'll have to check. Is that Sidney Poitier? I'm confusing my.
No. Sidney Poitier is Bahamian. Harry is Jamaican.
Okay, cool. See, I feel like I'm a little smart. I know something. What is a role that you really want to play so badly on Broadway?
It's cheesy, but it hasn't been. That's a lie. Okay. Right now on Broadway, there's not a lot. If you ask me to play any role on Broadway right now, I would want to play either Abraham Lincoln in O'Mary,
okay,
or Ernest in Death Becomes Her.
I saw Death Becomes Her last year. I love that show.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good musical. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. What is a compliment you never get tired of hearing?
That I never get tired of hearing. I don't get tired of compliments. I would say my ease that I have.
Okay, that's good. What's the best meal you've ever had in your life?
Meal?
Yes.
Only because I miss it. My mom's curry chicken or my dad's frito pie.
I like a good curry chicken. Yeah. The final rapid fire question: what is your guilty pleasure?
I don't believe in guilty pleasures. Oh. If it pleases me, I say it.
If it pleases you, you do it. Yeah. Okay. What are some of life's pleasures that you heavily indulge in?
You can find me at any Housewives franchise.
Okay.
Any Housewives franchise. In terms of theater, I don't care what anyone says. Footloose is an incredible musical.
Okay.
Incredible.
I haven't seen it on stage before, so I wouldn't know. I only saw the film.
Footloose is everything. I love Footloose so much. What else? I like Bologna. I don't understand people's aversion to it.
Okay.
I love black men.
As you should.
It's beautiful.
As you should.
As I should. And I understand why everyone else does. I love the heat. I'd rather be hot than cold any day. And I know that people can say, well, you can never take off too much. Yes, you can. You can. I'd rather be in 95 degrees than anything under 50. My God.
But we're moving into a time where it gets to like 110 degrees.
Now,
you want to be in that heat?
No, listen. Obviously, that's extreme, but that to me is just as extreme as some Minnesota negative. Those are the same things.
But to be fair, if it's really hot, you can if it's really cold, you could layer up, you can wear your thermal underwear, you can wear your sweater, you can wear your jacket. If it's that hot, you can't take off your skin. You're gonna.
Yes, it doesn't matter if it's that cold. I don't want to be going anywhere anyway, so it's irrelevant. Just because I have to go somewhere doesn't mean I want to go somewhere in the cold.
Fair, but if it's hot, if it gets like really hot like fire, like Alea says,
Yeah, it could also be so cold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, either way, you don't want to be out there too long anyway. Even if you're layered up, this is where my mind goes. Even if we're layered up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can only be layered up out there for so long. If you get stuck out there layered up, you're still
fair.
Them layers are only going to last you so long. Yeah. In the same way that heat past 110, it's not sustainable.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I don't
want to be in 110 heat. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to do that. But like being hot feels. It's the same for people who are like, I'd rather be cold. For me, it's like I start like it hurts.
Yeah.
If they said New York City or America is about to disintegrate and we're about to go into this like Arctic apocalypse, just take me out.
Because New York gets really cold though. New York gets like get to the negative sometimes.
So here's the thing about
for a while.
So here's the thing about cold. Yeah, for sure. Here's the thing about cold that where I can justify it. On where am I living where it's cold? At least it's New York, and the cold happens when the cold is supposed to happen. See, when we moved to Colorado, it was June, and there was snow on the ground. That's where it's just
in June. That is crazy.
Yeah, it was so chaotic. And so to me, if it's wintertime, I expect it to be cold because it's the wintertime. If we're not in the winter, I don't understand, Harry.
You talked about Housewives. You say you're deep in any. What is your favorite Housewives franchise?
Okay, favorite Housewives franchise of all time is going to be Beverly Hills. Close second is going to be Atlanta because the cultural impact and significance and the way that it affected all the other franchises. But the reason why I love Beverly Hills is because Beverly Hills consistently has always had one thing that the other franchises either don't have or they waver, and that's they always have money. And the money is a main tenet. I don't want to be watching people who are middle class. I want people to be rich. Because you know,
so you don't watch, is that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Watching rich people spiral is what makes me feel better. Not watching middle class people pretending to be rich. That's just, what's the point? I can do that with my friends.
Okay.
I want money, and then you have Atlanta, because Atlanta obviously Black and showing what money does in our communities and putting Atlanta on the map, which is its own different thing. But I think that those two franchises will always be my favorite because they also taught the entity of Housewives itself how to better itself.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I know that, I'm going off script a little bit. I have a question. So Potomac announced, the new cast list.
Uh-huh.
And there are two other people who are also filming with them that they have said are they're trying to like test out for the show, kind of.
Yeah.
There is this Black lady who seems super religious from from the early video that I saw, and then there's a white lady who is Stacey's friend. Potomac has a history of colorism accusations, allegations. Most of the main players are light skinned. Like, it's a whole thing. Do you think that
boring?
Atlanta had Kim Zolciak for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
You think that Potomac needs a Kim Zolciak type of person? I don't know that lady's name. I'm sure she's nice.
Here's the thing. I don't think so. But like, I'm not anti it because here's the thing about Potomac. We have to remind ourselves that Potomac wasn't supposed to be a Housewives franchise. Remember, that first season was Karen's etiquette school and it was boring. So they made it into a Housewives franchise. Second of all, the thing about Potomac, and we all know this if you watch it, is that like, yes, there actually were relationships prior to the show filming, but like, how many of them are actually in Potomac?
They are by the Potomac River. Yeah, by the Potomac River.
I mean, last time I checked, the only one that actually lives in Potomac still, no, she rents.
But she still lives there. I rent my house in Minneapolis.
She lives there. She lives there when filming. Monique is the only one that lives there full time.
Okay.
Full time.
Okay.
Now I will say there's something about what I do love about Potomac, and what I do think was a missed opportunity at some points with Potomac, was to focus on the fact that that part of Potomac is historically upper elite Black. I feel like there could have been more emphasis on that, which is why bringing in a white person, I'm kind of like, okay. But also, too, so many of, I mean, like, you know, who's it that lives in D.C.? 2 of them live in D.C. You know? So we'll see. I think they've needed some fresh blood and a mix-up for a while.
I mean, it's not really fresh blood if it's just, I think only Tia is the fresh blood.
Is the fresh, right.
Woman is Black.
I mean, there are some people that I think that need to, like, you know, I think all the Green-Eyed Bandits need to go. They've been needed to go for a long time. Here's the thing. One, because they're just not entertaining. I look at Housewives as, even though it's real, right? I look at it as a scripted TV show. Who's on their gig? I don't care what you feel about Kenya Moore. She knows how to do her job. Lisa Rinna knew how to do her job until she didn't anymore. Right? Giselle and Robin don't know how to do their job. If you want to be a bandit, be a bandit.
I feel Giselle tries. I think that
Giselle tries, but the thing about Giselle is that Giselle is one of those people that, like, she tries and Giselle makes the same mistake every season. Giselle, you cannot be, people who are actually private in real life don't go on reality shows.
That is
so
true.
You cannot try to fight the machine of reality shows. If you don't want to expose things about your life, then don't be on the show.
That is true.
If you don't, and here's the thing. Also, you can't be someone who's nosy and then don't want to answer questions about your own stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna be nosy being everyone else's business. You can't get all cagey and dodgy when we ask about the ex-husband.
I think that she has realized she didn't get a package at the reunion this past reunion.
Yeah.
I think she's gonna step up. I think Robin is back to hold Karen accountable. So I think that should be fun.
Yeah.
There's the Wendy of it all, my girl Wendy.
Oh gosh.
No.
I go back. How do you feel about the Wendy? Like, do you feel like Wendy and her husband were being shady, or do you feel like it just got mismanaged and they lost, and like they just didn't know what was happening and they tried to do too much the same? What do you think? or can you not speak? Can you not speak on it?
You know, I love Wendy. She's my Nigerian sister.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to believe that they did this intentionally. I think that they have too many degrees between the two of them to make this kind of mistake. So I'm just curious to see what happened.
It feels like, to me, a perfect example of someone getting lost in the reality TV sauce. And because they're getting lost in the sauce, they're making all these moves. And that's when legitimate mistakes can happen, or you're not paying attention to some things, or someone that you trust gives you a shortcut that you're not realizing can be. And because you're on reality TV, you forget that the eyes are on you.
Yeah.
It feels like, it doesn't feel like scamming. It feels like, oh, y'all have drank the Kool-Aid now. And when you drink the Kool-Aid, there are some things that happen when you drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I know we've gone into Bravo land, but you know, I still have one more question before I ask my final question for you. There's a new franchise called the Real Housewives of Rhode Island. Have you seen it? Do you have any thoughts if you have?
I have not seen it. My group chat has been saying I need to watch it. I have no interest, but as a scholar, I owe it at least three episode watches.
Why don't you have any interest?
Care about Rhode Island?
I would say Rhode Island came out blazing. Like they
did.
Yes, they did. It's so entertaining. Now you might take it
in the same way that Salt Lake City came out blazing.
So I don't think so. I think, to me, Salt Lake City peaked, and I didn't watch Salt Lake City as it was happening. I'm still new to Housewives, so I've been when I binged Salt Lake City, I think they had just wrapped up season 4. When I binged this, I binged it all through.
Okay.
And to me, it didn't pick up until season 2. I think it was still a little bit. There were moments that I liked in, like, when you smell like hospital, or when Mary said she got ejected and she flew up down into the neighborhood. All those weird. But season 2 with the whole Jen Shaw thing, that was when it really clicked for me.
Well, and then after Jen Shaw,
exactly, it became really good. But Rhode Island from like episode 1, it kind of reminded me of, this is weird to say, but Atlanta, like that first episode of Atlanta when Nene goes to the party and Sheree doesn't have her name on the list. You know, those kind of antics, that is what Rhode Island is giving. And
that's the best endorsement I've heard. That's the best endorsement I've heard in terms of it breaking down why I should watch it.
It is really, I think it's, you know, they're getting straight to the nitty gritty. Something that would happen in episode 7 or 8. You're talking about it in episode 1. You know, they're having the party that, you know, the kind of party that would close out a season.
Yes.
Having it in episode 3. So it's like, you know, so I feel like the show has all the things. So I think you should check it out.
All right. I mean, I'm definitely was planning on it, but I'll prioritize that. And check that out, you know, because also too, I need to do. I need to send you. There's this incredible breakdown that this influencer did about about certain archetypes that make the perfect cast of a Housewives cast. So now I can't unsee it. So I'm like, if one of us missing, we're gonna be like, we got to get rid of her, or they need to be like, she's actually this one, you know.
We got to switch it up,
and it has to be like, there has to be like across ages. There's got to be like, you know, there's got to be one that's like messy. You have to have like a queen bee that like doesn't mind dabbling in the mess, but like pulling, like you got to have all these little tenets, for it to really kind of work. And if one of them's missing, it's gonna be like, you know. And also too, I have a superpower. I can look at someone and be like, "You're not a housewife. You're a friend of. You're a friend of."
I think people, are there housewives you've looked at? I mean, like, you're not a housewife, you're a friend of. Are there people? Do you have any names you can throw of some of these housewives?
65% of Potomac, for an example. 65% of Potomac on any other franchise would be a friend of.
That is interesting. I think
Robin is friend of energy. If I ever saw that.
Well, she's friend of now. So hey. She is friend of now. Yeah,
rightfully so. I would say Teddy from Beverly Hills, friend of energy. Drew shouldn't even be on the show, but Drew from Atlanta, friend of energy.
Okay, Drew Sidora. This is so interesting. I've never really had Housewives deep dive on my podcast before. I am working on a new project and we might be doing some of that on there. But yeah, this has been really cool.
Listen, I'm down. You invite me back, we'll talk about it. Because there's something so interesting too about not just the show, but if you like, there's something interesting about like once you get familiar with it, you start to see, fortunately or unfortunately, you start to see how the Kool-Aid starts affecting people. You know, it's one of this. It was kind of like, you know, people are kind of like, I'm married. My first thought was kind of like, we'll see how long, because being married on this show is really hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Yeah,
you know, we'll see.
It is.
And then when it like when Wendy was on, I was kind of like, how is this going to work? Because you know, people from the Caribbean and African countries, they don't love their, like, how does your family feel about this? My mom tells me all the time, she's just like, you can't go on no reality show. Because business and things in the
yeah, you know, yeah, which is why I feel like there has to be a level of, with like Wendy, for example, or Nneka, who was there for one season.
Right?
There's a level of, you curate what you want people to see. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's the thing. If you watch it long enough, the people who try to curate as much as possible end up realizing you can't beat Bravo.
Yeah.
You can't beat it. You
can't beat the
can't.
machine.
Can't. It's going to, and usually they end up getting beat because they get lazy because they're kind of like, once that second season hair installment gets put in, and the second season, once they get that second season for the money and it changes, but you can't go on the show. Like, people who go on the show never having watched it, I'm kind of like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? Your feet, but like, you can't go on the show and think that you're going to outsmart that. It's just not going to, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
That is true.
Or if you think that you're going to like moral high ground it, kind of like Kim Fields did, where she was just like, I'm better than that baby.
Oh my God. That was, that feels like a different, that was the time. That season was something. Kim Fields, wow.
It's kind of like, it's just like, you can try to shame people all you want, but that's how you end up. And then what happens? People are like, oh, your husband's gay.
Best beat on that film. Not one at
Now we talk
all.
about
The one who I thought was going to come back was Shamari, though. And,
yeah. But and the thing is, I thought Shamari was good on the show.
She was great.
Great.
I think the drinking thing didn't put her. I think they didn't want to. I think that things came out that she didn't want to confront on reality, because I think they may have offered her back. I don't know if they offer her back to come back.
I think especially after it's a different time now, and I think after situations like Leah from New York, whatever, I think Bravo is being very careful that they're not enabling behavior. So if someone is exhibiting that kind of situation, I think they're now taking the sense of kind of like, we're not letting you go. We are heavily suggesting, because they've been coming under fire for, it's different. Like I said, it was a different time now. So that's what I hope it is. I hope that they didn't let her go because of her drinking, because there must be some other people that should have been let go as well.
One of them is in Potomac, but anyways.
Two of them are on New York. Okay, anyway.
But this is me. I really enjoy really speaking with you and getting to know you. I get to understand your journey. But before we go, after all is said and done, after everything, after all the shows, whether it's on TV, on the stage, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want to leave for the world and for, other young Black queer folks who are coming behind you?
I specifically want to leave the door open behind me, and I want to ensure that not only do Black queer artists understand that there has always and will always be a place for them in this industry or this world of being a creative, that there's also a place for all of them. So the people next to you, in front of it, we root. So it's not just about you getting through the door. It's just like, if you can get through the door, homegirl and homeboy and homeboy, they can get through the door as well too. I think our community together is really what I want to leave behind. People who root for each other and understand that one person's success does not take away from anything that you've got. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been such great conversation. I feel like I know you a little bit better based off this conversation, and also just even you giving us your time, giving us a little bit of insight into your story. Very appreciative of that. And I hope to see you on the next on the other show. We'll be breaking much more of Bravo things.
I want to invite. If I see a couple episodes go by about this, I'm gonna reach out and be like, "What?"
Don't worry. Once I make something, I'll let you know. Okay. And yeah, thank you for tuning in, for listening to this conversation. If you want to know more about Jason, I will share information in the description so you can check and follow him and do all the things. Thank you so much for listening. Till I see you on the next one. Odejuma.